We're gonna rank the parts. That's what we're gonna do first.
Okay.
There's only 8 of them here because part 9 isn't actually real. It's actually just you made it up in your brain. It's going to get very controversial towards the middle, on my end. Okay. Shall we start? Let's start with part 1.
Okay, I would say.
What was
Okay, what do you get?
Yeah, you go first. You go first. I'll...
Okay. I would say B or C tier because like I remember rewatching it like not that long ago and it was like, damn, this is kind of mid. I can't lie. It's like
it is pretty mid. I feel like it's gotta go in one of these two.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like the actual part itself is a C tier, but you gotta cut it some slack because it was the first part. And also it was massively held back because it was only, I don't know how many chapters it is, but it's only 9 episodes. So
yeah,
I think it is the most mediocre part.
It's like if it was just a show on its own, I would not watch it.
Yeah, exactly. There's no reason to ever revisit part 1 if you've already watched.
Like
it.
You have to watch it, but after you've watched it once, you don't need to watch it again.
Jonathan is the most generic JoJo. He doesn't really, because of the fact that it's only 9 episodes, there isn't really much time for Jonathan to get a character arc. And he's kind of just this noble gentleman character throughout the whole thing, which is cool.
I mean, like, the only episode I think is actually pretty good is the last one, because, you know...
The last episode is very good. And I do like the battle between Jonathan and Dio, the episode before that point, but there's just so much... There's like, you get to that bit, like, 2/3 of the way through the part, and they just introduce like 5 new characters. They introduce Dyer, Straight So, Tom Petty, and Dyer just dies immediately. My favorite bit is Dyer has the undeflectable Thundercross split attack, which is used twice and deflected both times.
The only characters which are actually good in part 1 are Dio.
Yeah.
And possibly John, but mainly Dio, and he hasn't even become like as good as he becomes.
Yeah, he's not even at his best. But I think C tier is a good spot because it's not bad. It's okay. Part 2, I think part 2 is definitely A or B. It's definitely better than part 1.
Yeah, totally. Me personally, I would put S tier, but you know.
I don't think it's an S tier. There are still some bits that I'm not a fan of compared to later parts, but I would be willing to put it in A tier. Because you got Joseph, he is probably the second best JoJo. He's the most entertaining JoJo. Cars is kind of mid.
Yeah.
The final battle, the final stretch is quite a bit of a slog. After he beats Wamu, it's a bit of a slog till the ending because I'm willing to suspend my disbelief in JoJo because it's JoJo. But
yeah,
Joseph's hand, Joseph's dismembered hand, flying up from the force of the eruption and grabbing Cars by the neck, that is some next level BS. And yeah, I just think when he's actually fighting Cars, I think Cars himself is one of the more mediocre villains. It's almost not long enough for it to shine properly because like you don't really spend that much time with Caesar or anything. Like
honestly, I think the shortness of it is kind of a strength because it's not as short as part 1, but it's not like
that is true.
As long as some people...
That is true. There is one part in particular that's going to go lower in my opinion because of that. I think it probably belongs top of A tier. Should we move on to part 3?
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the general consensus is, but I think it's a B tier. I don't think it's the character work started improving, but that is Polnareff, Jotaro, and Joseph. Not even Joseph. Joseph has the biggest character assassination of any character ever in part 3. He goes from like the cool guy to the biggest goofball. I mean, he's a goofball in part 2, you know, but like the biggest thing is that Avdol and Kakyoin both get written out for half of the story respectively because there's not really anything for them to do in those points. I'm not a massive fan of Iggy, personally. I never really connected with him. I understand a lot of people really liked Iggy, but to me he was just a really annoying character who was introduced halfway through, had one good character moment with his fight and then saving Polnareff, so 2 good character moments and then died. I mean, yes, the way he dies is really horrible, But the sad part about that to me is the fact that a dog was killed in that kind of way, not that it was Iggy, because I just never really cared. And I always agree with Polnareff that he was just a dick for no reason.
I mean, like, I would put it A tier because, well, I committed blasphemy and that was my first JoJo part.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I feel like, again, depending on the story, like, the length should be different, and I feel like the length with part 3 was maybe a bit long.
I'm going to get onto that in a minute. I will say the things that I do really like. Polnareff, Jotaro, and Dio are all great.
Oh, imagine a Polnareff part, like a part
That would
of
be
just
sick,
Polnareff.
where he's just a turtle going around. But the main issue from part 3 for me is how fucking long it is. Firstly, every episode is like a serialized monster of the week thing, which does get tiring when you have absolute dog water episodes like Wheel of Fortune and Whole Horse and Boingo. Though Whole Horse and Boingo is one of my least favorite arcs. Yes, my problem with Whole Horse and Boingo is you have the whole Oingo Boingo thing, where they're in the car and he's trying not to get blown up, you know, being not Jotaro. That's fun the first time, having the whole Toph predicts the things and then the things come around to bite the guy in the ass. But the second time and put into a two-parter, oh my god. There are some great there are some great arcs. Darby the Elder, Vanilla Ice, Lovers, Steely Dan. That's all great. But when they reach Egypt, they spend the first half of the story getting to Egypt, and then the second half, the pacing gets hit by a truck. They spend about 20 episodes just not doing anything in Egypt, just walking around, and it's just like, you covered half of the world in 24 episodes, and now we're just walking around in Egypt for the next 24. And there are some absolute horrific arcs, like Alessi. Who likes that?
I do think some of the things with the length are not justified. Like, for instance, a lot of the Egypt episodes being two-parters. Like, we didn't need two-parters.
Yeah,
like, a lot
that's true.
Of
they don't need to all be two-parters, yeah.
Like, they don't need to be 40 minutes for all of them. Yeah, but,
Yeah.
I mean, I like, apart from that, I'm not too fazed by the length, because I am a person who has seen over 900 episodes of One Piece, so...
True. So
as
where
you
would
can
you
tell,
put it? You would put it in 80. Would you put it bottom of A tier, below part 2? Because
I
think I think it belongs at top of B tier.
I mean, like, this is a list between two people, so yeah. But with me, I feel like I would put it A tier, not S tier, because you know some of the pacing issues and stuff. But apart from that, yeah. Also, we have to mention Jotaro versus Dio.
Okay, yeah, Jotaro vs. Dio is really good. I'll put it at bottom of A tier. I can compromise. Because Jotaro vs. Dio is probably one of the best final fights in all of JoJo.
Yeah.
But then, okay, here we go. I'm gonna make people upset.
This is the controversial bit.
Diamond is Unbreakable. I think it's here. I honestly think it's there. I really do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard your opinions, but I didn't even expect it to be that long. I thought it'd be like B or something.
No, for me, I fully understand that this is an unpopular opinion, but I will just vocalize to the best of my ability why I feel this way. For me, the first half with the slice of life stuff is just not bad to start with, but then it just gets so, like, there's that period after they beat Red Hot Chili Pepper where there's just nothing happening in the story. There are so many, I understand that loads of people love it, but for me, there's just so many things that hold it back. Because I think Kira's a great character, you know, don't get me wrong, I think he's a really good character, but I just don't think he's used very well. Like, because we're told as an audience that Kira has killed and kidnapped loads of women, but like, if I really want to be intimidated by him, I need to see more of that. You get a couple scenes when he's introduced that I think are really good, when you see him with the hand and being weird, and then he kills Shigechi, but then after that, all we see for the rest of the part is him just getting bodied over and over again, to the point where I'm not intimidated by him. He gets bodied by Koichi. I would like more of him, like, being intimidating before he just goes psycho at the end. Well, obviously he's a psycho the whole time, but like, before he's just crazy and yelling and calling everyone rotten pieces of shit. I just want to see the villain succeed a little bit more. That's why I feel like they should have introduced him earlier, because having him be introduced halfway through the part means you need to accelerate the arc quicker to set everything up, and that just resulted in Kira being introduced, having like 1 or 2 episodes where he's genuinely really intimidating, and then he just gets clowned on for the rest of the part. The fact that Josuke, the protagonist, is like completely sidelined for Koichi for a lot of the part really just rubs me the wrong way, because Koichi is like the most generic shonen protagonist ever. He overcomes his own anxiety and all that and whatever, but he's just so annoying, and he acts like he's like really cool when he's not really cool, especially in the sheer heart attack arc. Like, in my opinion, he is so lame there, and I honestly think it would have done both him and Kira a great deal of service if he just died. If he just died, because that would have made Kira a lot more scary, because he just took out one of the main characters. And it would also complete Koichi's character arc, because I don't care what you say, after sheer heart attack, Koichi does nothing for the rest of the story. He could easily be replaced by someone else and have him function the exact same way. Because Josuke's character development all happens in the first few episodes, it's all then spent on Koichi's character development, and I just don't like Koichi fundamentally. I find him obnoxious. So there's just a few bits like that I'm not a fan of, and then, I know I'm rambling quite a lot, then this fucking Hayato. And like, funny memes aside about Kira pulling the weird face, Hayato is genuinely probably my least favorite character in all of JoJo. He's not even a character. He's a plot device. He only exists so that the heroes can find Kira again. When he goes up into the attic and finds Stray Cat, he has no fucking idea what this is. He shouldn't have any clue what this is in the slightest. The Stray Cat traps him against the wall with air bubbles, and he's like, yes, I know what's happening. I'm being attacked by air bubbles I can't see. So he gets out a pencil and then like flings it over to the window. And again, he's just so cocky. That's what I don't like about Koichi. They both are so cocky at the end. Like, there's a scene in the bath when he's like, if you hurt me or mom, I'll destroy you. And it's like, wait, you're like a little kid who has no idea of what stands are. And speaking of that, you've got the bit where Kira turns Okuyasu into a bomb. Hayato inherently just knows that Kira has done this, and is like, Josuke, you've got a stand that can heal me. I don't understand the full logistics of it, because I'm a child who doesn't know what stands are. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprint up, and I'm going to touch Okuyasu, detonating the bomb, blowing us both to smithereens, and then you're just going to revive me. And then that works. No, it doesn't. He's dead. If you get blown to smithereens, you're dead. Josuke cannot heal dead people. That is one of the only limitations of Crazy Diamond. Not to mention, he's also a kid who, without any explanation ever, has a camera set up in his parents' bedroom that he just watches sometimes. He's a child. He's not supposed to just be this hyper genius, also a creep. And then there's also Kira and Josuke. They don't really have any hero-villain relationship at all. You can make the argument that the thing is all of Morio is fighting Kira, and it's like, no, I don't care, because the hero and the main villain, the main protagonist and the main antagonist should have some kind of relationship beyond the main hero being like, I want to stop this guy. Josuke isn't even really there when Koichi and Chotaro are fighting Kira. He's not even there, so he's just completely not present. He is not there for Shigetsu getting killed by Kira. He just magically appears. Kira even says himself that he considers Jotaro his biggest threat. He doesn't even acknowledge Josuke until the final battle, where there's this ham-fisted bit where he's like, I realize now that my main enemy is Josuke, the one with the healing power. And it's like, just saying that doesn't make it work. Koichi and Okuyasu both just magically decide to come back to life, which is some absolute bullshit. You've got Rohan. Rohan gets blown up, but then just comes back to life because of bites the dust, which is a real just like, oh, okay, I guess he's fine then. The Angelo bit at the start of part 4, I think that's really good. But after that, I just don't enjoy it personally. And I would actually put it probably above part 1, because I can acknowledge that it's a fundamentally better part. I just don't like it. I'm finished now.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say my biggest complaint with part 4 is after what's his name, Kira's dad just appears and starts throwing the stand arrow at people. I just lose interest because like I
Yeah.
tried to rewatch part 4 and when I got to that bit, the pacing went so slow I just couldn't finish
Yeah, they spend about.
rewatching it. I would put part
The
4.
highest I can settle is here. This is the highest I will go.
See, obviously, having just heard all of that is gonna change my perspective a bit.
Well, I'm just saying exactly what I think. That's
Well,
whatever you think, whatever you think right now. That's where you put it.
B or A, I guess.
If you say
is where
B or
I
A,
would
I'm
put
putting
it.
it there. This is where part 4 goes.
Yeah,
I know that's not gonna. I know people aren't gonna like that.
I do think part 4 is a bit overrated.
Part 5, easy S tier. Come on, you.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not even really a question. I think Bruno is one of the best characters Araki has ever written. I find all of the main squad super entertaining. Narancha, I love Narancha. I think Diavolo is really underrated. I think people hate on Diavolo.
I mean, like part 5 is just like
It's close to perfect. Honestly.
I just don't know what I could say like negative about it.
I think there isn't much. Honestly, I think the villains, the Hitman Squad, are great. I think the final battle is a bit mid. I'll give them that. It's not amazing. It's not the best, but it's good. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it's not a Jotaro versus Dio.
No, it's not.
I feel like I need to rewatch it again because I'm just remembering all the stuff which we didn't
rewatched
mention,
it
like
very
in between.
I rewatched it very. It's so good.
I usually like whenever I think about the middle parts of a part, I'll usually be like, that wasn't so great, but I just can't do that for part 5.
Yeah, exactly. It's just banger the whole way through. Don't ocean.
This is
a controversial part, but personally, I would put it there. I think part 6 is really good. I think Jolene is an interesting protagonist. I think Pucci has these moments where he's not so good. I think he's introduced a bit too early. I think he is very good. And I think the part as a whole is pretty good. It is by far the most convoluted part, I think. Part 8 is pretty convoluted, but part 6 is so strange. And like you said a minute ago about the middle parts, the middle part of part 6 does drag. Planet Waves, Yo-Yo Ma, like, those aren't great fights.
I feel like the middle prison bit is the weakest bit.
Yes.
But once they get out of prison, some of the stuff there is pretty good. Like, I like the scale, how it ramps up.
I agree, I do agree.
Even if it doesn't really have too much of an explanation, I just love the Heaven Plan, man. I just love conspiracy, like evil villain plots. It's just cool.
Jolene is pretty good. Again, it's like I said to you the other day. The character arcs of JoJo's are normally no JoJo so far, other than Jotaro, has had like a really good character arc. Joseph, none of them really. Giorno is a brick wall. Joseph is a goofball from the start to the end, which isn't a bad thing. Josuke has all of his character development in the first episode. Jonathan doesn't really change.
I mean, Jotaro gets the benefit of being in 3 parts.
Yeah, he
is.
You watch episode 1 and 2 of the Stone Ocean and look at the scene of her in the car with Romeo, her boyfriend, and then watch the scene where she defeats Gwes. They are almost like completely removed people. I understand that she's gone to prison and is like scarred and stuff, but there isn't. She just 180s completely who she is, and like where she's like the most meek woman ever, and she's like, I want you to call me JoJo because I think it's cute. But by the end of the second episode, she's like, if there's a hierarchy in this prison, I'll follow it, but I'm gonna be the one on top. And it's like, what? That's a leap in your character. When I say the ending, I mean specifically the whole final battle. I include that as well, because I do believe that the specific ending where the world gets reset, I don't think it's explained as well as it could be, because it's not articulated to us really, especially when it resets again, that everyone else had their normal life, like Giorno would have his normal life. It's not really explicitly told, so it's kind of difficult to understand. But the whole final battle, I mean, if you watch the anime, I think the bit where Jotaro comes in and saves her from the bullets, when Pucci shoots at her, and his theme music kicks in, that is probably the most hype moment in the anime so far. That is so good.
I feel like it's good, just like some of the prison bits were a bit like unneeded.
Yeah, I do agree.
So I'd put it probably 8.
Would you put it below or above part 3?
That's a good. I'd say below. I
would put it below because I think Dio is better than Pucci, and I think the characters are quite. I don't actually really like much of the Part 6 cast that much. Like, I don't like FF anywhere near as much as other people do. I think Weather Report, people really like Weather Report. I don't like Weather Report that much. He disappears for about 2/3 of the part. He comes in with as an amnesiac, so you could get some real character development. He has one fight where he saves Jolene, disappears for like 2/3 of the part, comes back out of nowhere, gets all of his exposition dumped in one episode, and then dies. Now,
Okay, so part 7.
we don't even need to talk about this. That goes there.
Do you like, if you say you don't like part 7, either A, you haven't read it, B, you are like 3 years old, or C, you are not real.
Yeah. Part 7 is the best part. Johnny is the best JoJo by far. I don't care what anyone says. He has a real character arc from the beginning to the end, and he evolves as a person. Gyro is probably the best JoBro. That's the thing. Johnny is the best JoJo in my opinion. Gyro is the best JoBro in my opinion. Maybe swapped out.
Pizza mozzarella goes.
It's Gyro. It's Gyro or Bruno. That's pretty close. And then Valentine is my favorite villain as well.
I still don't understand it. I still don't get it.
I think most people would say that Valentine is their favorite villain other than Kira.
Yeah, but like, I kept on going through thinking, alright, so when is Valentine gonna change and become like the really good villain? And it just didn't happen.
Well, that's like me with Part 4 then, because you just don't see it, because most people would say that he is a really good villain. There's not even any more you really need to say. It's just...
I do think
Yeah?
that, Part 5 I think is at least a bit more consistent, because like, well, I can't fully remember.
Well, it's
But
short.
if I'm comparing my like thoughts on, well, from what I remember, Part 5 and Part 7, I feel like I don't know.
Part 7 is the best part.
In terms of like which one I think more consistently delivered good stuff, I feel like Part 5, because.
But I don't think I understand what you're saying, but I don't think Part 7 delivered anything that wasn't good at all.
Yeah, I know.
I know you don't like Valentine that much, but no, I could say the same thing about Part 3 and 2. Part 3 not so much because Deer is fun, but Part 2, I don't like cars. I don't really like cars, so you know, I don't think Part 7 can go anywhere but there, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can say the same. It should be S tier.
JoJolian, you haven't finished JoJolian, so I'll run through this real quick. JoJolian is the first half of JoJolian is so good. Before you know who Josuke is, it's so good. It is really, really good stuff. But then, like, pretty much the entire second half of Part 8 is the Wonder of You arc. And obviously I don't want to say too much. You already know who the villain of Part 8 is, though.
I don't. I know his design, but I don't know who he is. All I know is you don't like him.
Yes, well, regardless of... You know his design. He is not good. He is bad. Separating the main hero and the main antagonist in the final battle is an interesting concept, but it's just not a good idea. It's just not a good idea. The first half, the thriller bit about Josuke finding out who he is, that is so good. I can't... If it was just that, or more of that, I think it'd be like here.
So far, I think it's good, and I will say the characters are batshit insane in Part 8. Like, oh my god.
They are. Also, Part 8 is really horny.
It is.
Part 8 is really
I'm
horny.
like less than halfway through.
There's that one arc,
And
there's the Paper Moon King arc, where
Yeah, and
Yasuho nearly gets raped twice in a row. She almost gets raped by... She thinks Joshu is Josuke and gets wet, which is weird first of all. Then almost gets raped by Joshu. Then goes into a car where she almost gets raped again. Also, the car has a little thing of Monkey D. Luffy on the windshield.
Damn.
But I think that is the best spot for it. And I think that concludes our part tier list. This is our definitive part tier list. We got part...
If we're like splitting the difference between us.
Yes, if we're splitting the difference between us. Last place is part 1, 7th place is part 4. People won't like that. 6th place is part 8. 5th place is part 6. I would put it higher than them. 4th place is part 3. That is too high in my opinion. 3rd place is part 2, 2nd place is part 5, and then 1st place is part 7. People are going to be like, how can you say part 3 is better than part 4? I don't even think part 3 is like the best. I think part 3 is a B tier, personally. But I just don't like part 4.
I mean,
So yeah, that's
well-
it. But yes, thank you. Say goodbye. Say goodbye to everyone. Goodbye, everyone.
Patently stupid, that's what they say. If you've got an idea, hey, just tell us today. People have problems, but what can you do?